Hello and thanks for joining us here at Tech 24. I'm Anelise Borges. Coming up on the program, fighting wildlife crime the high-tech way. In today's show, we tell you what the Wildlife Crime Technology Project is all about. And in Test 24, apps for pets, we offer you a selection of the best out there. The world is dealing with an unprecedented spike in wildlife crime. Fighting this trade requires new and innovative methods. So the World Wildlife Fund created a technology umbrella to protect wild animals. It's called the Wildlife Crime Technology Project. And today I'm joined by Crawford Allen, spokesperson for the project. When did the World Wildlife Fund start noticing the threat to animals was becoming virtual or digital? Since when have hackers entered the list of dangers to endangered animals?
Well, increasingly what's been happening is obviously wildlife conservation and law enforcement have been coming together hand in hand to try and find new technologies to help protect wildlife from poachers particularly. And obviously with that application of new technologies comes that risk that those technologies will be hacked into and abused. I mean, technology has been used for some time, certainly since the past 10 years, obviously with things like satellite collars. But increasingly, there's a whole range of new technologies, a mind-boggling number of different types of technologies that, in fact, we're realizing there is potential vulnerability there. It actually could give wildlife crime hackers an opportunity to know where animals are and where poachers are and where operations are. And so in building in new technologies, we're going to have to find strong security solutions too.
Now tell us how the Wildlife Crime Technology Project came about and what kinds of technology are being used to fight wildlife crime.
Well, about 2 years ago, we started thinking about how we could use unmanned aerial vehicles to provide aerial surveillance to look for poachers and also to look for our rare animals so we know where they are, and also where our rangers are on the ground so that when those law enforcers are out there, we know we can find them and spot them and give them information about what's around them. And in doing so, we figured out actually the use of aerial surveillance in isolation wasn't going to be just a singular solution that would help. We needed to combine it with different range of technologies. And we looked at all the different things out there, and we put together a plan, and we talked to Google about it. And Google was really inspired by what we were proposing, and they knew it was risky, and they knew it was adventurous, and that made them want to invest. And they gave us a $5 million Google Global Impact Award grant in December of 2012. And since that time, we've been testing different technologies, initially in the country of Namibia, to help the government there, the Ministry of Environment and Tourism, to protect their rhinos and elephants.
Now, in a recent interview, you mentioned that this fight is like an arms race, a technology race between conservationists and poachers. And with poachers off to an early start, do you think you'll be able to catch them and eventually win this race?
I mean, absolutely. It always seems like everyone's trying to get one step ahead of the game. Poachers will start using night vision, and so therefore we're using thermal night vision aerial cameras on unmanned vehicles that can show the location of poachers by their body heat on the ground. And then also obviously weaponry is getting more advanced as well, and so you have to go and have more advanced weaponry for those rangers that are using weapons to defend themselves. So it is this constant struggle of moving one step ahead each time in this game. But of course we know that ultimately that the good guys are going to win. We know that conservation will win and see it and win out in the end, because it's a matter of time, I believe. There is so much momentum now, so much interest and attention like we've never seen before at the highest levels politically, that we are going to see, I think, some very strong impetus, investment, and results to really make sure that wildlife is kept there safe in the wild. But also we're dealing along the trade chains as well. It's not just about the site level protection, it's also about trying to deal with the trafficking gangs that are involved. And there's also technological elements to that too. But enforcement really is starting to step up on a global level, and politicians around the world are really recognizing the challenge. And so we're more hopeful now than we've ever been, in spite of the massive drama that is playing out in Africa right now, with 30,000 elephants being slaughtered every year, 1,000 rhinos being slaughtered in South Africa alone last year. But we think that the tide is turning, and we think that technology is going to play a massive part in being a really strong solution that's also not just going to stop the poaching, but it's going to deter the poaching too, a strong deterrent effect. If people think that there are eyes in the sky watching their every move, and there probably will be in some places, then I think that that's going to really deter them from thinking twice about stepping out to try and poach a rhino, for example.
Crawford Allen from the Wildlife Crime Technology Project, thank you so much for joining us today. Up next is Test 24. A puppy, a kitten, a goldfish, whoever you chose as a companion, we have the right selection of apps for you to keep track of vet appointments, medications, allergies, and food preferences. Dan found some very interesting stuff online. Dan, what have you got for pet lovers?
For newcomers like me who have never owned a pet, I think this app called Dog Care How to Videos is extremely interesting. It has several categories, but the one I found the most interesting was how to choose a dog breed. There are many instructive videos on your preferences, and depending on your preferences, what kind of dog breed you should choose. Once you have got the dog, I think the next key thing in taking care of your pet is, of course, training. And for training, I think one of the oldest tools for dog training is the dog whistle. If you have enough lung power, you can use an actual whistle, but there's an app which makes this possible on your smartphone. So what you have is a very instructive screen. It's very simple, so you just press on this whistle and you get the desired frequencies for which to either train or command your dog. Now, the next important thing in dog training besides training is the kind of food you feed your dog. I mean, there are a number of dog foods available, but what we do or what we err is that we try to feed dogs with some human foods, which is not advisable. So there's an app which tells us what kind of foods are not recommended for dogs, what kind of human foods. So this app is called iKibble. It's available on iOS. And you have different settings, you have different categories of foods. So you can check which food is good, which food is not. For example, I learned that chocolate is apparently not good for dogs. So this is a very instructive app for all the pet lovers. And the last but not the least is the First Aid app by American Red Cross. This app is very instructive in terms of videos, in terms of manual instructions on what kind of things you should do for emergencies or even day-to-day care of your dogs. So yeah, First Aid is taken care of. So I think these four apps, I think, completely are essential if you're a pet lover and you have a pet.
Now that you learn all this, you may get a pet yourself.
I hope so.
You were thinking about it. All right, thanks for that, Dan. And that's all we have time for. Thanks for tuning in to another edition of Tech 24. You can keep the conversation going on Facebook or on Twitter. Send us your questions and feedback using the hashtag Tech24. And we leave you today with Tokyo Reverse, part of a new concept here in France called Slow TV. A French public channel broadcast the 9-hour program of a man walking through the streets of Tokyo. But there's a twist. The man was filmed walking backwards, and then the whole program was shown in reverse. The work of wonder has been hailed as a small revolution by some of the viewers. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.